Hi, today we are going to be learning about ionic and molecular compounds using Lewis dot diagrams. What is a Lewis dot diagram? The purpose of a Lewis dot diagram is to show the valence electrons in atoms. The diagram is drawn by putting the chemical symbol in the middle with dots surrounding it, representing the number of valence electrons. For example, lithium has one valence electron, therefore you would draw one dot on top of the chemical symbol Li. Form ionic bonds. Ionic compounds always consist of a metal and a nonmetal. Ions are always either anions or cations. Cations are for the metals and anions for the nonmetal. For example, a positively charged ion would be a cation and a negatively charged ion would be an anion. Ions in an ionic complex always either give up or gain electrons to become a stable octet. When drawing Lewis dot diagrams for ionic compounds, there are two different diagrams you need to know how to draw. These two diagrams are called the formation and final diagrams. The formation diagram shows the electrons being transferred from one atom to the other, and the final diagram shows the two atoms after the electrons have traveled. We are going to be drawing a Lewis structure for sodium and sulfur. The first thing you would do is draw the Lewis dot diagram for both sodium and sulfur. As you can see, sodium has one valence electron and sulfur has 6 valence electrons. This means that sodium has to give up its electron to sulfur to become a stable octet. To show this, you would draw an arrow from sodium's electron to the empty spot on the sulfur atom. You would then need to draw another sodium atom to repeat the same process. For the final diagram, you will draw sodium's chemical symbol. You would then draw square brackets around it and write the charge 1 plus on the top right corner. Since there are 2 sodium atoms, you will draw the number 2 on the left hand side. You then draw the sulfur chemical symbol, its square brackets, and draw 6 valence electrons around it. Since sodium gave sulfur 2 electrons, you would draw an X to represent them. Then you would write the charge 2 minus at the top right. Now it's time for molecular compounds. Molecular compounds always consist of 2 or more nonmetals. Molecular compounds form covalent bonds instead of giving up or gaining electrons. Atoms in molecular compounds share electrons. Just like ionic compounds, molecular compounds need a formation and final diagram. We are drawing a formation diagram for carbon tetrafluoride. The first thing you would do is draw the Lewis dot diagram for carbon in the middle. Around the carbon, you would draw 4 fluorine Lewis dot diagrams. As you can see, carbon has 4 valence electrons and all 4 of the fluorine atoms have 7 valence electrons. Each of these atoms will share these electrons. To represent the sharing of these electrons, you would draw a circle around them. For fluorine and chloride, you would circle the closest electrons. The final diagram is very simple, as you draw the atoms the same way as in the formation diagram, with carbon in the middle with fluorines around it. Instead of drawing all of the valence electrons, you would just draw the electrons that are not being shared. For the electrons that are being shared, you would draw lines representing the sharing of these electrons. There are a few differences in molecular and ionic compounds, but the major difference to look out for when trying to differentiate between molecular or ionic compounds is that ionic compounds will have a metal and a nonmetal, and a molecular compound will have 2 or more nonmetals. During this crash course, we learned how to draw Lewis dot diagrams. We also learned about molecular and ionic compounds and how to draw formation and final diagrams for them. We also touched on how to differ between ionic and molecular compounds. I hope you learned something useful during this crash course, and I hope you can use this knowledge in your future.